Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day so far and welcome to today's video where I am going to be ranking all of the holiday palettes that I have picked up so far this year in 2024. I have 9 very infuriatingly. I can't tell you how badly I wish this were 10, but there are 9 that I purchased. I have McGrath Holiday Palettes, I have Huda Beauty's Holiday Palettes, Natasha Denona, 2 Patrick Tar Duos, Charlotte Tilbury and Bobbi Brown's holiday releases, and my newest addition, the Viseart Sireneuse Etendu palette. So I am going to be ranking them from 9th to 1st place and sharing what I think is the ultimate holiday palette for 2024, the pick of the bunch, the one that I am the most loving and gives me the most joy right now. So if you want to know what the ultimate champion of the holiday makeup palettes is for 2024, then keep watching. So quick disclaimer about how I'm going about this. This is going to be just my personal preferences, my least favorite palette to my most favorite palettes, not necessarily which will be the best for you or which you will prefer, or the worst quality to the best quality or anything like that. It's literally an order of the one that I am loving the most to the one that I'm just is not really for me so much. There are of course all different shapes and sizes of palettes, so that does kind of come into my decision a little. I haven't separated them out into small and large palettes. I've just gone for it, okay? It's every man for himself around here. So kicking us off in last place, in 9th place, kind of surprisingly and maybe harshly, some of you will think, but it's my first Patrick Tar duo, and this is the shade Talk to My Team. So it's not that I don't like this little duo, but it really for me does not create a look on its own. Now we do have another Patrick Tar duo that is higher up in the ranking that we'll speak about later, and it's higher up because it gives me like a full look on its own. This shade Talk to My Team unfortunately does not do that. While it is very pretty, it's just not a look by itself. You know, whenever I've reached for this, I always have to go and at least put like bronzer in the crease, but more often than not, like use a whole other palette to get some depth and to get some kind of like shape to my eye. It's too light. The shades are too close to actually create a look. So this is like a couple of topper shadows, but then that being said, this is like one of the more subtle of the duos. So the duos are not consistent when it comes to formula and finish, which again, I don't love. I feel like if you're releasing, you know, a range of duos, I feel like they should all have the same sort of level of impact because they have the same price point. You know, this one is not more affordable, it's not a lower price point, but it definitely has far less impact and less sparkle and less pearl in it than some of the other duos, including the one that I will come to in a minute. So for me, this just doesn't work kind of on its own in any way, shape or form. It's not really sort of impactful enough and sparkly and twinkly enough to make a look by itself, or even to just be a standalone topper. It's just a bit too soft for that purpose, and it doesn't work on its own as a full look because it's too light and there's no sort of light and shade there. So while the shadows in here are pretty and I have used it a few times, it's just there's nothing that's going to make me use this. It's something that I'm sure you have these shades in your collection already. It's very unnecessary, this specific shade. So for me, this, I kind of wish I'd saved my money. Now in 8th place, and I'm sure this will shock some of you, but it's Charlotte Tilbury's Beautyverse Love palette. Now I've reviewed, I think, almost all of these palettes that I'm going to talk about today, and it will be no surprise if you have watched my review and my roundup featuring this palette, because this is just not my colour story. I loved the original Beautyverse palette much more than I love this one. This has great formulas, really creamy, silky mattes, absolutely beautiful. I should have wiped Patrick Tar off first, bear with. These, I mean, these mattes, they're silky. They glide across the skin. They're so buttery, and the shimmers also, but I find this palette to be very one-dimensional. It's essentially a palette of grungier pinks, and this is just not a color story that I like. It's a little too dark on me. I wish there were some lighter shadows in there to just brighten up the look a little bit. Just everything always looks a bit too heavy and rich and too sort of grungy pink for me. It's a personal preference thing. I know there are lots of people who absolutely love this and this will suit a lot more than it suits me, but I do find that because all the shades are very close in depth as well as tone, you have 9 pans, but you pretty much end up with the same look time and time again. So it's not very versatile. It's not my favorite color story. So it's not one that I reach for very much at all. In 7th place, we're going to talk about one that surprised me in the wrong way, but it's Pat McGrath's, what she called the Celestal Jade duo. So this is the green gold duo from Pat's holiday collection, and I spoke about this in my monthly roundup and how much it surprised me, because I thought this was going to be like it for me. I thought I was going to be so wowed by this duo. You know, I do think it's pretty. I do think the formulas are excellent, as they almost always are across the board from Pat McGrath, but there's just something about the combination and the tone of the green that just doesn't work in the way that I envisioned it to. You know, I spoke about this being a very true green. It doesn't lean blue or purple or anything like that. And when I compared it to some other greens that I love in my collection, like the green in Sorcery from Lisa Eldridge, for example, that sort of is a green-blue duochrome. This one is a very sort of straight green with flecks of gold. And it's just not my green. It doesn't look as beautiful on the eye on me as I envisioned it. I think I've used this once or twice, and I'm not really drawn to use it any more than that. It doesn't really, again, fully create a look for me, just because the combo, just for me, there's just something a little off about the combination and the shades in here that wasn't what I expected, and I was like disappointed by, which I really thought this was going to make my year, and it's just straight in my bottom drawer. Forgotten, wasting away. In 6th place, again, probably quite surprising for some of you, but it's Natasha Denona's Roxa palette. I very much appreciate this palette. I think this is a beautiful palette with stunning formulas. So it's in 6th place, not because it's not an amazing quality palette, just because of the combinations and the colors in here are not colours and combinations I'm typically drawn to personally myself. I feel like there's a bunch of shades in here that are really, I love. So it's this sort of smokier purples. So we have this shade here on the bottom with this, and then we've got, you know, that marbled shadow, and I do like some of these pinks on the top row. But then we've got shades like this sort of really purpley shimmer. We've got a very sort of fuchsia pink, a couple of quite pink shimmers that aren't really my shades, and then these sort of reddier mattes are not really my shades. So I feel like overall this color story just isn't one I'm hugely drawn to. Again, it's got amazing formulas in here. This matte purple is probably the best quality matte purple, like of that depth, that I've ever seen. And if you're a real purple pink eyeshadow person, this is made for you. I truly appreciate this palette, while recognizing that these just typically aren't the sort of shades I go for overall as a palette. Like, I have my moments, you know, purple is like my favorite color when it comes to anything else, but with eyeshadow, there's a real sort of specific kind of purple that I love, that smokier, mauvey type of purples, gray purples. Those are the purples that I absolutely love, and I feel like in here they're kind of few and far between, and there are more brighter, richer purples and pinks that are quite like hot pinks. So just overall the color story isn't massively my jam, but an excellent palette, 100% incredible quality. Just again, not so much my color story. In 5th place, we have our second Patrick Tar duo, and this is the Still at the Club shade. So this is that sort of richer, like taupey gunmetal duo, and this one absolutely creates a whole look all on its own, and I think it's beautiful. This is one of the ones that I said is definitely totally different when it comes to the impact, the amount of shimmer, and how beautiful and stunning it looks on the lid. It's a completely different formula to the first one we spoke about, but not just because of the formula, also the shades. This is an easy sort of two and done look here. You know, I take the deeper shade and I'll blend that all up in the crease, all over the lid, and then use a finger to apply that stunning shimmery shadow on the bottom. Absolutely gorgeous combo. You know, this shimmer as well on the bottom has a really brown base to it, so again, you could even just do a one and done with that, and you've got something to blend into the crease. It's going to look really beautiful and give you some dimension. It's stunning, such a pretty combo. I find it looks a little rich on me for like every day, but for like a party, a festive party, New Year's Eve party, that sort of thing, evenings, date night, this is such an easy 5-minute look with just these two shades, and this shimmer is stunning. It's absolutely gorgeous. I wish Patrick would come out with more and more of these formulas, because this really reflective, shimmery, like wet looking shadow is stunning, so beautiful. And this is really the only duo that I think I would wear with any regularity. You know, I don't go for a lot of gold or silver. The pink is very fuchsia and very pink. So there's not really any other shades that I want to pick up, but I really wish he would bring out, you know, a green. I would love to see something a bit more mauvey tone. I would love to see something like more neutral, but maybe lighter than this one. There's so many options I feel he could do with these duos, or quads even. They're stunning. I really like them, but they are not all born equally. And obviously there's only so much you can do with a duo, so that's why it can't be any higher, as much as I think it's gorgeous. In fourth place, we have Pat McGrath's Big Mega Mothership for, I'm trying to open it the wrong way around, whoops-a-daisy. Pat McGrath's Mothership Mega for 2024. And I think this is my favourite big palette like these that Pat has ever done. I just think the combo is fun but wearable, and we've got so many stunning shimmers in here. I love that this is made in Italy. There's so many shadows in here that just knock my flipping socks off. I love that we've only got a few mattes, but they are really usable, buildable mattes that can be very versatile depending on what you want to go for. I mean, hello, metallic, molten metal shades, just gorgeous. They gleam and catch the light incredibly. This is such a stunning palette. I can't get enough of it. I have spoken about how this blue slightly lets the side down. You know, in comparison to its friends there's just no contest. I wish so much this blue was in this formula. But alas, it is not. I mean, that sort of purple, that light, that's the sort of purple that really tickles my pickle. I can't tell you. The combinations of it in here are endless. It's so much fun, so pretty, but I actually find it really wearable whilst being unbelievable quality, and payoff is just insane. The impact, fourth place, could have been higher, but, you know, my boring neutral loving heart is just all about the neutrals. So in third place, we have the Viseart Sireneuse Etendu. This is absolutely gorgeous. Such a pretty little palette. It's obviously very neutral, boring to some people, not to me. I just love boring. I just love it. I can't get enough. These shadows are so pretty. And as I said in my review of this little palette, it's so soft and elegant and understated and quiet while being super pretty and impactful at the same time. Softer shadows and something that you might see from Natasha Denona, Pat McGrath, but the combinations are just endless and so beautiful and so wearable and so pretty and elegant. It's just a beautiful wearable palette. You know, it's a palette where you've got so much choice, but still everything is wearable day in, day out. The office, you know, to work, on a daytime, on the school run, on running errands, everything in here is just going to look gorgeous and really effective, really easy to use as well. You know, no dramas with the formulas. The mattes are really buttery and blend themselves. The shimmers are creamy and beautifully pigmented. Nothing is so pigmented it's kind of challenging to use if you're not a professional, and nothing is too complicated. Everything works together like a dream with no thought required, no artistic brain required, no professional level skill required. It's just very easy and effective. If you're like me and you love neutrals and you're not going to a red carpet event every week, it's just you're going to use the living daylights out of it. And I just feel like that's something we don't see a huge amount of when it comes to holiday palettes. Everyone thinks a holiday palette has to be like, you know, bright, festive fireworks of colour that you can see from Mars. And actually, a lot of people want something that's pretty and twinkly, but isn't sort of entering the room before they do, you know, that's sort of a bit more quiet and refined and a bit softer. And that is perfect for anyone who likes something a little less loud. And something that you might gift for holiday, but you're going to wear year round, not just during December. And then in second place, we have something much more classically festive, and it's the Bobbi Brown Dream Gleam palette. Not least of all, this packaging. Oh, I mean, looking at all of these palettes on my desk, without any contest, this is the winner based off of the packaging. It's stunning. So beautiful, so luxurious, so pretty, so Christmassy, that gold with starburst. It's a delight to behold. I love how this palette is packaged. And then inside, it's just, you know, is it like groundbreakingly different? No, but it's also everything you need and could want for the festive season. It's a beautiful present. And while it does have these gorgeous sort of jewelly tones that are very festive, very New Year's Eve, very sort of fireworky, fun, you know, palette, you also just have the perfect accompanying mattes. I should have cleaned my finger better. Let's do those swatches again, because one of those went a bit black thanks to the previous swatch on that finger. But as I was saying before I rudely interrupted myself, you've got 4 shimmers, 4 mattes in here. And the mattes perfectly accompany the shimmers without there being anything spare that you don't need. This is, while only being 8 shadows, it's so comprehensive. You know, you've got a brow arch highlight or inner corner highlight of the matte. You've got a perfect first transitional shades, a couple of options for smoking or deepening up a crease, and then you've got the perfect combination of more impactful, slightly more understated, something that could go on the inner corner for a pop. You've got a lid shade, you've got a couple of options for adding some coolness there. You've got everything you could possibly need in 8 shadows for like the perfect party look. And these formulas are fantastic, so easy to work with, creamy mattes that blend like a dream. And just look at those shimmers, they're absolutely beautiful. They're so creamy as well. I was so surprised when I finally got my mitts on this to swatch it. And it's the perfect sort of more neutral lovers palette, but with a real kick of impact in there from those shimmers. It's so easygoing, so pretty, and a beautifully packaged little palette. This for me was probably like the turning point when it came to getting Bobbi Brown fully back into my drawers and my life in general. An absolutely amazing palette. Very underrated and very under talked about. So if you've been paying attention, you will know who the winner is, and it is Clue. And there is a big fat clue on my eyes as we speak. It's the Huda Beauty Icy Nude palette. This is one of, if not in my top couple of palettes of the year in 2024. I love this palette so flipping much. I feel like she's absolutely nailed the balance between being cool toned and being wearable for like my specific comfort zone. I love this palette. Every shade in here except for the glitter on the bottom that I wish was not there, and we've got another glorious one of these shimmers. Every shade in here I will use and love. I think it's stunning. You know, I was so surprised by Aurora because it looks so unassuming, but then it's this absolutely stunning sort of more rosy rose gold shimmer. Like that's the kind of pink that I like to wear, and just everything in here, it's so well thought out. The color story is excellent. The mattes are amazing, beautiful to work with. The shimmers are just so impactful and creamy. I love the combos in here. There are endless combinations that you could achieve with this palette. Really, the world is your oyster. And I think the name Icy Nude is just perfectly describes how this palette is on the eyes. It's icy, but in a wearable way. You know, this is much more of a wearable palette for me than something like Natasha Denona's Xenon, but it still has that cooler, icier tone, but just with sort of softer colours and shades and combinations to it that makes it, for me, something that I could wear day in, day out, year round. Whereas Xenon, I feel like, you know, as I spoke about this the other day, I feel like it's something that is so stunning, but I will only dare to sort of brave it if it's a night out or it's New Year's Eve or it's winter. Whereas this is wearable year round for me, daytime, nighttime. There's a look I can get out of this, and there's so many combinations. There's so much variation in here. I just think it's absolutely perfect. I love it so much. I've been using it non-stop since it arrived, and like I said, absolutely in my top couple of palettes of the year, let alone just for these holiday palettes. For me, this one easily, when I was doing the rest of the ranking, you know, there's a bit of movement, moving around, going back and forth and considering things. I always knew this was straight in at number one because it was instantly the one that I'm loving so much and I keep reaching for and just loving every look that I get out of it. So there you have it. That is my holiday palette ranking for 2024. Please let me know what your number one holiday palette that you've purchased this year is. Which is the one that is giving you the most joy? Is it one of these? Is it a different palette that you picked up that I haven't picked up that you think I should try? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. But thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, and I would love to see you in the next one. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye 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 bye.